Today we're going to talk about what happens when needs and roles in a family, especially a multi-generational family, collide in dementia care and some ideas on how to handle that. Welcome to Recourse Coaching, where we teach you about trauma-informed Montessori-based dementia care, and this series is basically just conversations about dementia, casual conversations about dementia, where Jeffrey and I kind of talk about what dementia care has been like for us over the years and some challenges and successes. Today we're going to talk about what happens when needs and roles in a family, especially a multi-generational family, collide in dementia care and some ideas on how to handle that. My name is Reverend Katie Norris, and I'm a Montessori-based dementia care specialist.
And I'm Jeffrey Norris, and I started being a dementia care partner when I was 6 for my grandmother.
In Montessori-based dementia care, we talk a lot about maintaining roles for the person with dementia because roles bring meaning and purpose into our life. So I'll give you a few examples of what roles are.
I guess like normal family roles, like, I don't know, someone who cooks, someone who cleans, someone who does yard work.
One person in the family might be the person that works and earns the money. The other person might be a homemaker, or you know, people might have multiple roles, right? Both people work outside the home and both people take care of the kids. Some of the other roles are also the roles that you would have had in your job, the roles you might have had as a volunteer, and those are all really meaningful to people. And one of the first things that happens in dementia when someone finds out they have dementia is that we accidentally take all of those roles away from somebody, especially if we see cognitive decline and decrease in ability to do things. So like my mom loved to cook, and when cooking became hard for her, we started to cook for her and kind of take away that role instead of finding ways to bring that role back to her. And so Montessori-based dementia care talks a lot about bringing roles back to your loved one with dementia. So we're going to talk about my mom who had Lewy body dementia, and we moved in with my parents, my husband, son, and I did, to take care of my mom. And Jeffrey was around six to when?
To 9.
Okay. So when we talk about my mom, we're probably going to call her Beep because that's what the kids call her instead of Grandma.
Yeah.
So what are some of the family roles that Beep liked to have?
I mean, she was really into cooking and taking care of the kids and just helping out wherever she could, cleaning.
So those roles are a way that she felt that she fulfilled her meaning and purpose in life, and it's also the way that she showed other people that she loved them. There was a time, though, when those roles became a little bit difficult, so we tried to maintain those roles for my mom, but kind of what happened when you were little?
I guess, so when we first moved in, she kind of took it as her responsibility to do a bunch of the caring for me as a little, since I was so young, but I really didn't want that. I wanted, kind of, because I think the relationship between, my parents and my grandparents was kind of blurred, but I think it just felt much more comfortable for me to have, my parents be my parents, because that's what I had for the rest of my life leading up to that point.
Mm-hmm. So she would do things like ask you, do you want me to make you breakfast? Do you want me to help you, I don't know, find your coat, get ready for school, that kind of stuff, yeah?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he didn't really like that and would tell her no.
Yeah.
And then how did Beep feel about that?
She always felt pretty bad about it because, she saw that as how she could help and show love and be important.
Mm-hmm. And so when he would say no, my mom felt like Jeffrey didn't like her, which really wasn't what was going on.
Yeah.
It's just that we all have roles that we want to fulfill in our life, and also that family system has created roles. And so my role was as his mom, and he didn't want someone else taking that role. And I remember one time I asked him why he didn't want my mom doing certain things for him. And he said, that's mommy's job.
Yeah.
This is also where family systems gets interesting because some families are raised where children have to do whatever an adult says, even if it's emotionally and physically uncomfortable for them. And so I think my instinct in the beginning was to tell you, if Beep offers you something, you have to let her do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was not good.
I think I just didn't respond well to that, I guess.
Yeah. So it made me really sad. I was a Montessori kid, raised a Montessori kid, and so I know that that people need to be able to express their emotions, that they need to be able to say what they need, and these are all things we teach in Montessori-based dementia care. And in the beginning, when we were caring for Mom, I didn't have Montessori dementia care training, but I was a Montessori kid. So in Montessori, we're supposed to listen to somebody's emotions, figure out what their needs are, and really try and not tell people that their emotions are invalid, because then that creates shame and becomes a problem. But family-wise, we were just supposed to do whatever an adult told us, and the adults were a higher tier than children. And in Montessori, it's not like that. Everybody's even. So I made a mistake in the beginning, right, and went with my not great family system of, you're the kid, do what we say. As if his emotions didn't matter, which was not good. So over time, I think that we learned that roles and needs in a family, even when somebody is sick, need to be balanced, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it couldn't just be about Mom.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, everything couldn't be just based on the person with dementia, just like everything couldn't be just based around me or my dad or my husband or Jeffrey.
Yeah.
So I think I knew that being a young care partner, eventually we understood, was a lot on him. I think a lot of us are raised like, you take care of your parents, you know.
Yeah, I guess I just didn't, I don't know. I wasn't ready to, like, be caring for somebody else when I was so young.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, even if it wasn't directly, there's so much stuff involved with, as a family, taking care of someone with dementia, that a lot of the responsibilities that I had were, like, very different than normal children, even if it's not, like, directly doing stuff for the person with dementia.
Right. So that's a good point. Your role as a kid, which is a valid role in life, kind of went away, right?
Yeah.
What kinds of things do you feel like kind of were taking away that role of being a child and developing that way?
I think so. I mean, one of the biggest things was just, like, that Beep needed so much, like, help that a lot of my stuff, I guess, fell by the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, trying to get Jeffrey to be able to go to a birthday party, right?
Yeah, it was very, I don't know, very different than most other kids.
Right. It wasn't like I could just take Jeffrey to where he needed to go, or he could have friends over or anything, because too many kids in the house would make my mom disoriented and upset. Getting him places, I had to make sure that somebody was there to watch Mom and that she was settled, or if she was going to go in the car with us for the ride. Like, it could be how long to get her ready.
I don't know, at least like half an hour.
Right. And so it's just a very different experience. So it was like everything about his life was always like on hold until Mom was ready and we, you know, had her settled and things like that. Like, we took care of her first before you.
Yeah. Which, like, I mean, it is reasonable, because that's like a decision you can choose to make. But I guess as being so young, I didn't personally choose that also.
Right.
I didn't have the mental capacity to know to choose it.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, and it's a lot, because we do go through developmental stages, and at the age that you were when we started out, it's not really being a caregiver to that huge capacity, because we lived with them, did get rid of so much of your role as a kid.
Yeah, but I mean, if we did the same thing now, it would be a lot different, because I'm much more independent than I was then, so it might not be as big of a problem,
right?
Like, having to take care of someone with dementia.
And I think that's where you look at, like, the family system. Definitely, we could have figured out care partnering roles differently, so that Jeffrey wasn't so much of a care partner. Because one of the hard things is that if one of the roles my mom loves to fulfill is to be a grandmother, it became really easy for us to be like, okay, Jeffrey, go ask Beep if she'd like to do this with you, right?
Yeah.
Jeffrey, let Mom help you with this, that, or the other thing. And, we're following the right dementia care procedures, but sometimes when we talk about those, we forget that there's a whole bunch of other people in the family.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's also rough because the stuff that my grandma could help me with was very, like, it didn't always make it easier for me to do what I was doing. So, I mean, sometimes, like, her helping me was kind of more for her than it was for me.
Right.
Which was, I don't know, it was hard for me to see that when I was younger. I just felt like it just made things harder for me.
Right. Yeah, it takes, when we talk about it, like, it's okay if things take longer. It's okay if breakfast takes longer with your loved one with dementia, which is true, but also you do need to take into consideration everybody else in the family. And I think at 6 years old.
Yeah, I didn't really know.
Right. And, we tried to explain it and everything, but back then I don't think that I think you're in it and you really want to take care of your mom, and so like I prioritized that a lot and was very much raised that anything your parents need you do, and it doesn't matter how you feel about it. And I don't know that that was the best thing to put on Jeffrey.
Yeah.
How do you feel about like care, like that time of our life now?
It was definitely hard, but I think I learned how to deal with it being hard, which, I mean, can go both ways. Like, you don't want something to be, like, really bad, but, I mean, learning from it once it's over is normally good.
Right. Lots of people have someone in their family is sick and have really hard difficulties, so we're not saying, like, life should be easy and so that it's, bad if it's not. It's just that you have to learn how to balance kind of all the roles and things like that for people at different stages of their life, which is really difficult in an intergenerational family. What are some things that you would suggest to people now if they had a similar situation like that with their young kids and their parent with dementia?
I guess just trying to find a balance between, like, I don't know, care, because, I mean, kids have to be cared for, and so do whoever has dementia. And then I don't know, it gets very weird when, I don't know, there's so much that needs to be done that, I don't know, it's very hard for somebody to get kind of neglected. And I mean, that may be the person who's taking care of both of them, because if they have to do everything for everybody, then it's also difficult on them.
Yeah.
Like, looking back at it, my kind of problem wasn't as much that I didn't want, like, Beep to do stuff for me, but more that I felt like I had less time with my parents. So the stuff that they already were doing was important to keep it that way.
Right. So, yeah, it does get difficult. Now I'm going to cry. Oh, my baby. But yeah, I mean, it is like, and we talk about things like anticipatory grief and all these other kinds of things. There are lots of different types of losses in dementia. And I think if you're living in that kind of intergenerational family where your parents are, that sandwich generation, your parents are some of the main caregivers, it is a loss for kids in some way to lose some time with their parents. And a lot of the things that they had before with their parents. And so that's really difficult. And I think that talking about it with your kids is important, checking in on how they feel about stuff, letting them express how they feel, and not going to, like, the mistake I made was, well, like, Beep needs help, so we got to, like, just do the right thing. And what the right thing is now, I understand, is trying to compromise and meet the needs as well as you can for everybody, not just one person. We probably could have had my mom help Jeffrey, not at times where, like, he had to do something, like where he's going to go to her friends, or you're going to go to school, or you wanted to have friends over, stuff like that, but like actual fun things. Like, I know that my mom really liked the daily activity roles, but those weren't the things that Jeffrey enjoyed doing with her. So how do you, like, meet in the middle with those things? And I think we could have been more cognizant of kind of like what was going on with that. So now, being a dementia care specialist, some of the things that I would have recommended to myself back then is to hire caregivers earlier. So hired caregivers, if you can afford to do that, or if your insurance will cover it. I know that's really difficult for a lot of people and how you get the approval for that, but trying for that early would have been a big help. We also could have asked friends and family to come over and do very specific activities with mom. So like sometimes when I'm helping a family, we create Montessori activity kits that people can follow and use with a person with dementia for visits and things like that, so that they feel comfortable coming over. It's an engaging process for everybody. And then the main caregivers can get a little bit of a break. That would have been good. Let you have friends over more often, or figured out a way for you to see friends more often.
Yeah.
Would have been good.
Yeah, I mean, just having more time to do my own stuff.
Right. And then probably also have time to do things with the three of us, my husband, son, and I, as a family, not always the five of us.
Yeah.
I think would have been good. One of the things that didn't work was to try and tell my mom, it's not that Jeffrey doesn't like you, he just really wants me to do these things for him, and he's missing me and things like that. Because two things, that's going to make her feel bad as a person who needs help. And those are the ways that she shows love. So it doesn't make sense to her that if someone doesn't want something like that, that they aren't angry with her or upset with her or whatever. So it just cognitively wouldn't have made sense to her. So, you know, and I think that's one of the things that's difficult because, and then Jeffrey's really young. So how it's hard for him to understand that,
that she doesn't understand.
Right, that she doesn't understand. And so you feel bad because you really love her and you don't want her to feel like you don't love her. But then but then what do we do about the fact that she doesn't understand that? And so it's just a difficult process. So I think in that situation, something that works better with your loved one is still just focusing on the things that you can do together, and maybe not putting your kid in a situation where he's alone with her and my mom's chatting with him and she wants to go make him breakfast, right? There's ways, and we talk about prepared environment and Montessori dementia care. Had I prepared the environment and started off like the time of day where we're getting ready for school differently, then it wouldn't have cued her brain to ask him, do you want me to make you breakfast? Let me help you get ready for school and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that I could have done that back then I didn't know about to prepare the environment so that those kinds of interactions wouldn't have happened or would have happened less. And I wouldn't even had to address as much the issue of that he said no to something that she wanted to do for him, because we wouldn't have been in that situation in the first place. So all of that is to say that obviously dementia care is complicated. Roles are extremely important, but we don't only want to look at the roles for the person with dementia. We want to look at roles and needs of everybody in the family, and then how do we balance those? And how do we set up an environment so that
it's best for everybody.
Right. Is it ever going to be perfect?
No.
No.
It's always going to be not perfect.
Right. But we can make it better. And that's kind of the point. How can we make the journey of dementia better for everybody? So hopefully this helps you kind of just think about the complexities of dementia care. And if you are living in an intergenerational household, help you not feel so alone. We know it's really difficult. And each family is different as well. Like if you're in a family where your mom wouldn't have wanted to do all those like mothering things for their grandkid, then, you know, you wouldn't have the same issue that we had. So every family is different.
If you're interested in learning more about Montessori-based dementia care, you can visit our Instagram at Creative Connections Dementia.
Let us know in the comments if this kind of casual conversation about dementia care was helpful for you. And if you want to keep following, please like and subscribe. Did you just yawn?
Okay, I can.
Did you just yawn during what I said?